Corner Better Trail Braking. This video is called Corner Better Trail Braking. What I look at here is how trail braking actually works, when to do it, how to do it, and what the benefits are. Okay, you know I'm not the fastest rider in the paddock, but it turns out I'm also not Einstein either. However, in this video, what I'm going to try and prove to you is that because of physics and the way your bike works, you should be trail braking. In fact, if you're not trail braking, in my view, you are taking a lot more risk by not trail braking. Let's see if I can give you a bit of what I have learned and make you not only faster on the track, but also safer by trail braking. Just before we start, I want to say how amazing it is that so few track riders I meet actually bother with trail braking. Then consider what they are doing in the corners instead of trail braking, and it is quite a worry and a puzzle how they don't crash without trail braking. Maybe they don't crash because they're going slower to avoid crashing. The absence of trail braking does perhaps explain why some track riders are not getting any faster when you consider how many trail braking opportunities there are on those tracks and how beneficial trail braking is when combined with today's bikes. Maybe the best place to start is with what the bike brakes, suspension and tyres are designed to do. Then move on to how the rider can make best use of that technology and the physics involved. Let's start with the front end of the motorcycle. As I said, I'm not Einstein and I quickly lose focus when the video goes all physics on me, but in the case of motorcycle geometry, it is time to buckle up and listen in. Even if you never try trail braking, your health may be at risk if you don't follow and understand these basics. I will confine this section to rake, trail and wheelbase. There is other stuff, but I might be at risk of losing you and your will to live. The rake angle is set by the angle of your headstock or steering axis. On some bikes, like the Ducati 916 models, this can be adjusted. The rake angle is the number of degrees between a vertical line through your front axle and that steering axis. In case you are wondering about the fork legs, they are offset from the steering axis by the triple clamps. Unlikely to come up in the pub quiz, but definitely worth knowing. Trail, or more precisely ground trail, is the imaginary distance between where your steering axis would touch the ground and the middle point of the tyre contact patch. For the sake of clarity, the steering axis touches the ground in front of the tyre contact patch. The shorter the trail length, the lower the rake angle and the sharper the bike will turn. Or, the smaller the rake angle, the smaller the trail and the sharper the turning. Or, the more upright the forks are, the smaller the rake angle. Most important to be aware of though, rake angle and trail change as the front forks dive and rise and the rear suspension rises. Trail length also changes when the front tyre compresses, making trail shorter and turning sharper. Conversely, more trail, more stability, less trail, more agility. Wheelbase also shortens as forks depress, making turning easier. Well done, you got through that and are still in the game. Did you notice though how bike geometry changes actually help steering and stability? If this is the one thing you take away from this video, you're already a better rider. Okay, if you did not notice here, it is again because this should remove any doubts that trail braking is dangerous, unhelpful or a waste of time, or that you cannot do it. On the brakes, forks depressed and tyre squashed, trail reduces. Wheelbase shortens and the front wheel turns easier. Is that good for corners? Yes, it is. On the gas, forks extend, trail increases, wheelbase increases. Is that good for high-speed stability? Yes, it is. Do you now see why bike geometry does what it does? It is no accident. It is how they designed it. If you could depress your forks, squash your front tyre, reduce trail, shorten wheelbase, and make the front wheel turn easier, you would. Do you now see why trail braking makes so much sense? The key takeaways are, if you trail brake to the apex, your forks and front tyre will depress and remain that way. Trail will reduce, wheelbase will reduce, the front wheel will turn easier as you approach the apex, and grip will improve. With those benefits, why wouldn't you want brake pressure all the way to the apex? Well, my guess is you wouldn't want brake pressure all the way to the apex because you think the front wheel will let go and you will low side into the gravel. Your present version of cornering, though, is the least helpful to the physical bike geometry dynamic, as in you have no brake pressure after slowing down, so your forks and tyre have rebounded, adjusting the centre of gravity to the rear just when you need maximum front tyre steering force. Here's a video of me doing exactly that. Have I now succeeded in convincing you that brake pressure to the apex is a good use of your tyres and suspension and makes the front wheel easier to turn just when you need it and better grip? Trail braking means maintaining brake pressure from the braking zone to the apex, but what it doesn't mention is how much brake pressure. The answer is just enough to keep the front forks depressed and the front tyre squashed into the tarmac. This takes a little learning, but you can try it progressively and only where you feel comfortable. I think a squashed front tyre on its side at maximum lean angle has a bigger and more effective contact patch than a front tyre on a straight, and definitely better than no brake pressure in a corner at maximum lean. Can you see and understand the difference here? Keep those forks depressed and that front tyre squashed for maximum corner grip. Do you think the front tyre will let go now? I hope not. Do you think you can go faster at the apex? I hope so. Do you think you have more control and grip awareness? I also hope so. So, how do you make the best use of the bike's brakes, suspension and tyres? Without being on track or corner specific, the idea is to get most out of your retardation done upright and in the turn phase. At this point, your forks are depressed, front tyre squashed, and you are making the turn towards the apex. This is the perfect setup. Probably what you do next, though, is release the brakes and cruise all the way to the apex with neutral throttle. You are waiting to reach the apex, then waiting to finish the turn, stand the bike up and gas out. This is what the brilliant Sylvain Guintoli calls the neutral phase. For us amateurs, this is a long period of time where the engine is quiet. We are not slowing or accelerating. We have reduced all pressure on the front forks and tyre, and they have fully rebounded. So, before the apex, you have thrown away all the engineering advantages of the bike brakes, suspension and tyres. But worse than that, you're about to go maximum lean angle with the same front tyre grip as you have blasting down the straights. No wonder you feel rigid with stress and at risk of a gravel adventure. Do you see how reducing the serious brake pressure at turn-in by about half keeps the forks depressed and front tyre squashed to massively improve corner grip? The other benefits of fork depressed and squashed tyre are shortened trail and wheelbase, making the bike actually far easier to turn. For the real Einsteins, it is far easier to break the gyroscopic force of a spinning wheel when it is spinning slower. So guess what? That front wheel turns even sharper. Here's another really important indicator of trail braking corner performance: the speed gradients. Let's compare speed gradients for trail braking and no trail braking. No trail braking speed declines, but has to go lower, sooner, and for longer, because you know you don't have the front grip from turn-in to the apex with more speed. So you slow down sooner and stay slow. You also gas later and less aggressively. The dreaded neutral phase. The trail braker turns in with a higher speed at the end of the braking zone, knowing he has more grip. He keeps some brake pressure that scrubs off speed slowly to the apex. His actual apex speed may be slower, but only for a very short period of time, as with his higher grip level, he knows he can stand the bike up sooner and hit the gas earlier. So the Trailbreaker is faster in, slower at the apex, but faster out. So at every point from turn in to apex to exit, he has more grip and stability. His actual apex speed may be slower, but everywhere else, he has more speed for longer and is on the gas earlier. This means his neutral phase is as small as possible. In time, it can be as little as the time it takes to release the front brake lever and twist the throttle. That, however, is racer-level timing and takes serious track time practice. Hopefully, you can now see the benefits of trail braking. The bike brakes, suspension and tyres were designed precisely for this technique. It is time you got on board and started exploiting all those sweet turning dynamics and watched your lap times plunge. I hope this is not overload, but also consider this. Your turns can be so much more precise as you learn to calibrate trail braking pressure for steering, changing trajectory in the turn, navigating corner passes, and planning your corner exit route. It might also be useful to combine this video with the rear braking and gassing out videos, as they all hang together as a package, but are easier to firstly understand separately. Final point. To execute trail braking, you should do it progressively and within your comfort zone. If you're going to do it, remember your normal braking at turn-in will not need to be so aggressive because you'll be staying on a reduced brake pressure further on into the turn. So save some speed for after the turn-in point, as this speed will be used to maintain the fork and tyre squash you are looking for further towards the apex. Maybe try it at a turn where there is tarmac runoff or an exit lane. In conclusion, trail braking is a very dynamic and high rider input way of taking corners. It works especially well on corners where entry speed is high and apex speed is low, like turn 5 at Portimao, or turn 6 at Jerez, or turn 2 at Valencia, and turn 1 at Aragon. You may also find your fork telltale needs resetting, compression and rebound adjusting. Trail braking makes ultimate use of bike brakes, suspension and tyres, and exploits the concept that the slower the bike speed, the sharper the turning rate, as the gyroscopic effect of the front wheel inertia depletes as speed falls. Finally, there is a real sense of describing the turn by the use of brake pressure in a very controlled way, rather than the very loose feeling of forks that have rebounded and no throttle. The objective is faster corner speed and as little neutral phase as possible. The outcome is amazing corner stability and speed and confidence you are in control. Well done. You are now really using all that expensive bike brakes, suspension and tyres. As ever, if you have any questions, please just ask. See you in the next one.